Well, great. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I want to go ahead and get started. My name is Mike Joliet. I'm a member of the Marietta College Alumni Association Council. In my final year, very exciting. Has gotten to see a lot of changes happen, especially during COVID. And this program actually was an idea of the Alumni Association Council during COVID as a way for alumni to connect back to the institution and learn more about the programs that they graduated from, because we realized a lot of times we don't have a good connection back to our programs. So a great way to stay in touch and understand what's going on. I'm going to have Doug run through some quick housekeeping slides. Doug is also a member of the Alumni Association Council. He's at the chair of the communications committee, which is where this program lives. Doug?
Well, thanks, Mike. Hello, everybody. Yeah, don't be shy. Turn your cameras on. I'm sure that everyone looks just fine. So just a quick note about the MCAA. It is the Marietta College Alumni Association. The council is a volunteer run. We're all volunteers here. We're supported brilliantly from the college's advancement team, some of whom are here now. I see a couple. I see Erica and Kat. There might be others that I'm missing, but so we're here really just to make certain that the connection between the long blue line, which is us, and the current students stays strong, and that folks who are alumni can still feel connected, like Mike said, to the college. You can help. Please find us on social media and I will send out the links in chat while we go through this. Mike's going to be running the show, but I'll be the man behind the curtain, moving the knobs and levers and things. We've got a Facebook account, although we are in jail right now. We don't really know why. We have an Instagram account, a couple LinkedIn accounts. We have a new one that the college has started called Pio to Pio. I don't want to put her on the spot, so feel free to say no, but Erica, do you want to say a little something about Pio to Pio?
Sure, happy to, Doug. Thank you. As Doug mentioned, we have a new LinkedIn networking group. It's just for the Marietta College community. So it's for our alumni, for our students. It's an opportunity to get professional advice, to post professional opportunities, be they internships or full-time positions. Just a great professional networking community hosted on LinkedIn for our alumni and our folks here.
Thank you very much. And then, like I said, I'll put the links in there in the chat as well. Oh, two things at once. Okay. And hey, guess what? Homecoming's coming up. It is time to register. Come visit. I'll send the URL in chat as well, but this one's pretty easy. marietta.edu/alumni/homecoming. Head over there to register for homecoming on October 20th and 22nd. If you can't make it, we're also doing a virtual stadium. We're selling virtual seats at the stadium, something that was born out of COVID that we've decided to keep around. And I'll send a link to that as well. Let's get started, but a little housekeeping. Mute yourself, please. Don't make me do it for you. Feel free to ask questions. You can either send them in the chat to me throughout the conversation, or we will leave time at the end for just an open round robin where you can ask questions or just make comments. It doesn't have to be a question. You can just share a story or part of your experience. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let Mike take over.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. I wanted to say thank you to our four panelists. With us today, we have Christy Gerhardt, the director of the PA program. We have Jonna Mountain, PA class of 2024. We have Chris Petrucci, Marietta College class of 2018, and then PA class of 2021, and then Barry Brownstein, PA class of 2006, joining us. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
So Barry is actually a member of the MCA, or a former member of the MCAAC. He's a member of our Adkins Society. And when we were voting on him to come into, or vetting everyone, they were like class of 2006. And I was like, I was student body president. I don't remember this person. I feel like I knew everyone. And then they clarified that it was the PA class of 2006. And I said, that's why I must have not crossed paths with Barry. Awesome. Well, I wanted to cut to Christy here, and as the director of the PA program, just to give us an update as to what's going on in the program, what the program looks like today. So take it away, Christy.
All right. Thank you very much. It's kind of nice to see I've got some incoming students that are going to start in June on this as well. So I'm excited to see some new faces and also some familiar faces from the interviews we've been having in the program. So thanks for hopping on for those that are there. A lot of new things in the program. I've been with the program since April of 2022. So clear tradition of excellence in this program. So I'm honored to be a part of it and big shoes to fill. So right now, I would say the most recent cohort that graduated July of 2023, we had a 97% pass rate on the boards the first time. So that is tremendous. The last cohort was 100%. So we are trending very well. I will also like to say that we just got a couple approvals from our accreditation body. We unfortunately had ABU University got closed, and so we were able to put together an emergency proposal to transfer some students in. So that allowed us to bring 2 students from the Alderson Broaddus University into our program. So they are now with the 2025 cohort. So that's exciting. We then got additional information from the accreditors that we have approval to grow to a cohort size of 40. So that's also exciting. That will start with the cohort that we are currently interviewing, so that they will start in June of 2024. So we'll go from 36 in a cohort to 40 now. And then we honestly have a lot of alumni events. We have a tremendous alumni support in our program. I've been at other institutes, and I am extremely blessed by the alumni support we have. There's a lot of different ways the alumni are able to support our program. And to recognize that and trying to get some student involvement, we're trying to do an alumni and student event. So that comes up at Penn's Mechanical. So that's fun. We did it first time last year, and it was a great response. And the momentum is there, and the students are excited as well. And then we're going to start a preceptor recognition dinner. That's going to start in February. Our preceptors, a lot of them are alumni from our program. And it's just a tremendous gift that they give our students in our program. So we're going to try to recognize that gift. And then, of course, this program was started almost 20 years ago. So in July, we will be graduating our 21st cohort. So that will be our 20th anniversary celebration. So in 2004, we graduated our first cohort. So very excited for some of these events that we're doing and the momentum to build up to that 20th anniversary celebration.
Makes me feel old that I remember the first graduating class of the PA program.
Me as well. So. I graduated in 2001, so I'm feeling old myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And, I'm back on campus quite a bit because of my involvement with the MCAA. But when I was on campus, the PA program actually was in the first floor of Russell when it started, I believe. I have someone on here who I just noticed who could probably fact check me, Dr. Stewart. Hello. But I believe then it moved to Ricky. So where are you now, and what are the facilities like?
So our facility, and I could be wrong, I think around 2008, 2009, we moved to what used to be the Moose Lodge. And so we're located now at 208 3rd Street. And honestly, you cannot miss the building. It is a huge building with big blue paint that says, physician assistant program. So I am very concerned if you do not find the building. So we have, obviously, it's great because we have designated classroom space for all the students. All of our offices are there. The only thing that the students go to on campus is the donor lab. And then, of course, all the facilities that they have access to. So our classrooms there, our procedure skills there. They obviously have lounge, things like that. So it's really nice to have that physical space for the students.
Awesome. Thank you. Jana, so you are in your second year, is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
So how did you pick the Marietta program?
So it's a very rigorous process trying to apply to PA school, and it's very competitive. I really wanted to pick a school in Ohio when I was formulating what I wanted to do, what my purpose was, because it's more than just helping people. I sat down with one of my mentors, and we kind of realized that Ohio is very integral and the type of person that I am. So I pretty much applied to every single school in Ohio. But then when I went and did my interview, And it's going to be different for everybody, but you don't know anyone. You're trying to like put your best foot forward. You're trying to be professional. And my interview group had a blast. We were so loud. We were getting to know each other. And even just like doing the actual interviews, you just really felt like home. And it just like the whole interview process had a very like homey feel. So I just remember like driving home, like, oh my God, I really hope I get into this program. So just like the comfortability and like the relax, it's not relaxed, but you feel like they genuinely care about you. So that made me really want to go here.
Awesome. It's so cool that the home feeling of Marietta College extends to the PA program too. So that's awesome. Chris, how about you? I know you graduated from Marietta as an undergrad, and then what made you want to stick around?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Marietta. I went to undergrad at Marietta, played baseball for 4 years. Didn't have the grades to get into the PA program right out of undergrad. So had a long conversation with Mrs. Collins. Hey, Miss Collins, how are you? So I took a year off and ultimately got in the next year. I think for me, what stood out about Marietta was kind of like Jonna said, but it was just the people there. I had a chance to meet a lot of the people in the PA program, as an undergraduate student in the following year. And I think just how much they cared about the program, how much they cared about the students, how well established it was, really was, I think, just made it a no-brainer for me. And I'm so thankful that things worked out in my favor. So I think there's a lot of factors for me, but really what stood out is the people and how much they cared.
Now, Barry, I'm going to pose the same question to you, but I'm going to couch it with, I think PA was your third career, maybe fourth career. Is that correct? I mean, this is
it was my fourth degree and my third master's, but I went to Maryland in aerospace engineering, then Michigan in engineering for a master's, and then went into the Air Force and was in Dayton. And when I got out, I went to Wright State on the GI Bill and got a master's in computer science, and then blundered into EMS and got interested in medicine. And then a friend of mine was applying for PA school, and I wrote his letter of recommendation. We were in the same volunteer fire department at the time. And I still teach with him today, interesting enough. But I didn't know what a PA was at the time. I was 51. And then when I came on campus to interview, I was 57. And so I was an old guy. The first cohort had not yet graduated just a couple months into it. And I'd interviewed at a number of schools. And since I was different, just like, I recognized I was going to have to go back to school again, but I kind of wanted to have at least a little flexibility. And I would always ask somebody, the students would always accompany you on a tour. And I was at one place and I said, what don't you like about this place? They said, they treat us like children. I said, well, it doesn't sound like a good thing for me. Then I went to Marietta. Students said, we're still getting organized, and every week they come out with a schedule that's slightly different, but they listen to us. If we do something and we didn't catch on and we want to cover it again, they change the schedule. So I decided that that was just the flexibility I was looking for. And I gotta say, I'm glad to be doing this. I'm especially glad to be doing it to see Gloria's smiling face there in the little box, like you're on Hollywood Squares. And Miranda's out there somewhere too. So anyway, it didn't disappoint at all. And Marietta still turns out some really good graduates. The practice I work for has 4 Marietta PAs at the present time. So we continue to hire from there.
That's great. I hope you got a finder's fee for that or something, or a referral fee.
Yeah.
So both Chris and Jonna, you were both athletes in college. Chris, baseball player. Jonna was a basketball player, right? Yep. Did that kind of contribute to what you wanted to do? I know Jonna, you were sports medicine. Did that push you in this direction? Is this something that you kind of always were looking at, or was this something that just kind of presented itself after the fact?
Yeah. So I knew I always wanted to be in medicine. So with playing basketball pretty much my entire life, I wanted to do something sciencey, something medicine-y. So I did the athletic training track, but I wanted to like further my studies, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So like as I practiced for like 4.5 years. And I actually didn't find out about PA until I was pregnant with my son. I met my first PA at the OB-GYN office, and I was like, this lady is amazing, but I didn't know if I wanted to do OB-GYN. So like when I started to research and I was like, oh, actually like PAs can do it all. So that really piqued my interest and started me on this track actually.
Very cool. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I actually grew up. My mom was a PA, so I sort of understood, what PAs did and how they contributed. But so after I finished PA school, um, I loved orthopedics. I work in orthopedics now. For those of you who are just joining the call, I work in orthopedics now. I see a lot of athletes. I see a lot of non-athletes. Um, Ultimately, I think what persuaded me to choose orthopedics was just the day-to-day routine. In school, I was actually, I loved cardiology. After Barry gave us an awesome lecture in our first year, I was like, man, I definitely want to do cardiology. During my second year in rotations, I realized that, orthopedic surgery kind of allowed me to do a little bit more hands-on things. It also gave me a little variety in my schedule. So I spend about half the week in the OR and half the week in surgery, or half the week in clinic. So the day-to-day routine and also the people that I work with, I think was what really sold me. So my advice for those of you who are in the current class or you're about to start, when you're on your rotations, think about not only the medicine and the type of people that you'll be seeing, but also who are you going to work with. For me, it was, I have to find a group of people, and especially as a new grad, a group of people who are willing to teach and be patient, as I learn and develop. And that's what I found. So, as much as I love cardiology, my thought to myself was find people that you really love to be around. And I think you'll enjoy your job and you won't mind 6:30 rounding before surgery.
I think that's a great transition into kind of our next topic is taking a look at you as our quote unquote young alum representative. What has your career kind of looked like post graduation or post PA program? And what are you doing now? And what from the PA program really has impacted you there?
Yeah, so I work at a private practice orthopedic surgery office in Morgantown, West Virginia. When I first started, I was a lot of sort of learning as far as the clinical medicine side of things. When I started in the operating room, they kind of just throw you into the fire and say, here's how we're going to do things. Better start learning how to suture or how to be efficient. But the group that I worked with was really slow in kind of bringing me on. I spent a lot of time, seeing patients with the docs in the office and just kind of getting my feet wet. I didn't have the athletic training experience like Jonna did, which would have been awesome. But that being said, I caught on quickly. About 6 months in, I started seeing my own patients and having my own clinic schedule. And that sort of, ramped up, closer to a year and a half, year two now. But it's been great. I think, as I've gotten more comfortable, I've gotten more autonomy. The great thing about my practice, and I think this is partially being a surgical practice, is I think there's always somebody around to ask questions. If there's something that I'm not sure of, I think a big thing for me is understand what I do and do not know. If it's something I'm not sure of, then I just walk down the hall and ask, one of the surgeons, hey, what would you do here? Or, that kind of thing. So I think it's, getting your feet wet and just gradually learning. I'm 2 years in and there's still things I see every day that I'm unsure of and I'm learning. So for the young grads or just finishing school, just be patient. I think it takes quite a while to get comfortable.
So Barry, I'm going to cut to you on that same question. I know, you've done a couple things and you're in a practice and teaching. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Well, I'm still at the practice I started with, so I've been 17 years for a private cardiology practice. It's one doc and several PAs and several NPs, and our job is to be where he isn't. And we develop a lot of camaraderie in the sense that we have we communicate on Microsoft Teams all day long. I've got thus and such. What would you do, or whatever? So we share knowledge in addition to working with our collaborating physician on things. And I was listening to Chris, your story about like the 2 years, and you're still learning new things. What's kind of interesting is the longer you do it, you know something, but they come out with something new, and a new drug, a new device, a new something. So I don't think you could ever get bored at this. You have to continue to learn. At this point in my life, I typically just practice a couple of days a week, and then I teach for a PA program in Columbus a couple of days a week, including running their simulation lab. And it's really kind of a good dichotomy. You learn something in practice, you can add it to a lecture. You also have the opportunity to maybe do a little bit more research on it, putting it together for talks for the students, and then you get to precept some of the same students on rounds. So it's been I would not still be working at this age. I'm not sure I'd be alive at this age if I hadn't changed careers. And at this point, I have no thoughts of ever completely retiring from this.
Awesome. I think I also learned during COVID, during the COVID years, that I don't think I could ever retire. I think I would get too bored at home. So I empathize with that. Jana, because of your being in your second year, you're probably not as much in the classroom anymore. Can you talk about what you're doing currently?
Yeah, so I just finished my third rotation. I just finished orthopedics, and then I start psych behavioral medicine on Monday. I live in Columbus, and I just sort of commute to my various locations. So I just finished down in Athens. So now I'm going to work my way up to Marion. Do you want to know like my day to day, or?
Well, for some of us who don't necessarily know the PA program as well, how many rotations do you end up doing?
I feel like it's 10, technically 11. Correct me if I'm wrong, Director Gearhart.
Yeah, you guys do 9 core. So yeah, like you guys do 9 total, because you do the core rotations and we give you 2 electives as well.
Okay. And so cores are they're 5 weeks long, and then your electives are 4 weeks long. I actually just found out one of my electives, which is kind of cool but nerve-wracking. I'm going down to Tampa, Florida to do GI oncology. But you basically travel to your clinical site, you have a preceptor, and you learn from them for those 5 weeks. You have a topic list that you study from, and then every 5 weeks you come back to campus and you have an end of rotation exam. We have lectures. Some of our students present like a patient that they saw, as well as like a research article that they found, and like would they use it in real life practice or not, and we have a discussion about it, and we get free lunch, which is really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. That sounds really neat. And are you leaning, so you're in your third, so are you leaning towards anything yet, or not yet?
I'm still very open. I will say each rotation has been very eye-opening in a different way of like, okay, so this is what the actual practice is like, as well as, I guess, understanding how much I actually know and am able to apply has been like really cool. But then just like, again, seeing what, like Chris was saying, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, seeing if you could see yourself in that practice has just been really neat. I don't ever want to like pin down on anything. I'm still very open. So just open to learning.
I guess for those of us on the call, Christy, could you run over or just do a quick overview of what the PA program looks like, and maybe even for some of the future students, what does it look like from year to year?
Sure. It's pretty consistent year to year as far as how our program's set up. So great thing about our program is we have a 12-month didactic. So I always say that's classroom based. We always start in the summertime. We try and do the anatomy. We'll do a intro to clinical medicine course and professional issues. And that's generally about 9 weeks. And then in the spring and fall semester, we try and keep things very consistent as far as fall semester, they'll get into the disease processes. So they'll get into pathophysiology, they'll get into physiology, they'll get into doing a head-to-toe physical exam. In the fall semester, they start their research course. And then they also get into pharmacology. And then pretty much we repeat the same thing. So whatever organ system we didn't get to in the fall, then we just finish it in the spring semester. So this way it kind of keeps it pretty regimented and routine. So it's like riding a bike, even though it's like drinking from Niagara Falls that we tell the students. And then clinical year is 14 months. So it's great that this program has 14 months. A lot of other programs don't have a 14-month clinical year. And we try and do the family med at the beginning and the end of the program, just to try and show the students and the preceptor how much they've grown over that entire clinical year. And then, of course, the electives like Jonna was mentioning earlier. So 26 months in total. And I tell the students that they're not done until graduation date, and neither are we. So we try to give them a lot of feedback on where they're at, their weaknesses, some areas that we can improve, some of their strengths, and we kind of go from there. So it's exciting to see them grow from the time they come in until they actually on their graduation.
Very cool. And for the incoming class, Nick, with the incoming cohort being 40, is it going to be 40? Is it mostly going to be bio majors? Is it going to be sports medicine majors mostly, or does it really vary?
There's a lot of variety now. So, but right now we've sat, a little over half the cohort right now, but we still interview until February. So we're only kind of like halfway through this whole interview process. So it's still early on.
Okay. And where are you geographically? Are you seeing people coming from all over the country, or is it, special or kind of focused on an area?
Yeah, so I'm very excited. Like our feeder schools, like right now, Ohio State has quite a huge impact. So it kind of varies, but obviously around the area. The current cohort that we just seated in June, we have 6 Marietta College undergrads. So that is one of our largest cohorts. And right now we're looking at probably about maybe 8 to 10 in the cohort we're going to seat that starts in June. So that is extremely exciting because it continues to align with the mission and goals of the program as far as underserved population, Ohio, Appalachian region. So, but definitely Ohio, West Virginia, Michigan, but we also have people out from Utah and, places like that. I think we have 2 or 3 students from Utah just because there's not as many PA programs out West compared to East Coast. So I like the variety. I tell the students it gives you an opportunity to see what everybody brings. And then ultimately, when you guys got on clinical rotations, if they're willing to spread their wings a bit, you can kind of see how medicine is practiced. Big city, small city, West Coast, East Coast, and kind of decide, how you want to practice as a clinician moving forward.
In preparing for kind of our conversation today, I was reading some articles about PA programs, and I saw something that some students struggle to find their rotations. Does Marietta have good connections to make sure that the students aren't struggling, or is that a universal universal thing that students struggle with?
I will say it's a universal problem that all programs struggle with, but I will say that as part of our proposal to get approval from accreditation and grow to 40, we had to have, everything in place and show that we already had the sites. The tremendous support from our alumni there's no words that match that, because a lot of our alumni do help. And the students love it because they come in for lectures and labs, but then they also are out there and they see them as preceptors. And I just feel like that kind of strengthens the bond and the tie, just to kind of see somebody out there that is from Marietta College, and then they're also precepting them. And I know John had literally just had somebody that was an alum, and she was like, oh, I love them. So it's great to hear that.
It's really comforting to see PA or Marietta College PA alums like in the wild, especially like when you're by yourself. You go from like being in this little room, being not babied, but being babied by all your professors, and now you're just like out there. So like seeing, it's not even a familiar face, but like knowing they went through what you went through at the same program is really comforting, and seeing them in a successful position it's reassuring for like me as a student to know like that's the path that I'm on.
I will say it's rare if I'm wearing a Marietta College shirt that someone doesn't say, hey, I know someone who went there, or I went there. It doesn't seem to matter where we are in the country or in the world. Someone will always walk up and be like, I went to Marietta College too. And I'm always amazed.
It's so funny that you say that. Yeah, because I was literally probably 1 or 2 weeks, or probably 1 or 2 months into the program, and I was literally at the airport, had a Marietta College shirt on, and somebody said, "Go Pios!" And I was just like, "Okay, what just happened?" I'm still working on all this and getting used to it. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It was fun.
Awesome. So Barry, I'm gonna cut over to you. So it's really neat that you are working in the field, teaching in the field, and you're seasoned alumni representative here. So what are some of the unique things about the PA program that you wish you could duplicate it where you're currently teaching? You're at Ohio Dominican, is that right?
Yes, yeah. But we also have a good program. The thing I have to say is I always bill myself as the oldest surviving Marietta PA graduate, because that's still the case as long as I live, unless you guys start letting people in that are considerably older than I was. When I went, it's a little different now. I mean, obviously, it was starting out. We had, I think, 20 and went to 21 when somebody from the cohort above us joined us or whatever. So it was a little smaller, and we were in a smaller facility. It was I felt a little bit like it was being in an infantry platoon. After a while, everybody knows everybody else, and everybody's kind of in it together. And some people studied on their own, but everybody was willing to help. Stuart was our director, and said something like, the competition, you had to compete to get here, but once you're there, the competition's over. Now you work as a team. And that's something that we've tried to instill where I am now. And the professors were all very approachable. They were glad to help if you were confused about something or whatever. It was really a nice, kind of a classic learning environment. And I'm hoping it's still that way now. It's like twice the size, so I'm hoping it's the same way. But that's the way I remember it. It was, the goal was everybody that started was going to finish. Everybody that finished was going to graduate. What could we do? We're not going to take the test for you, but what can we do to get you over the rough spots? And I thought that was just a tremendous environment to go to school in.
Awesome. Chris, now, where with what you're doing now and your career path was being a graduate of the Marietta College PA program, was that looked upon favorably? Did that help you out because of the reputation?
Yeah, I think so. The group that I work with, I actually rotated with as a student. So I sort of it wasn't an interview, but I think they knew I was interested. And I think I rotated in February, 4 or 5 months before I graduated. But there are a couple other Marietta grads in our, larger health system. And I think definitely well respected. We get a lot of students coming through our office and through the hospital that we interact with. And I think everyone sort of knows that Marietta students are a little bit more eager, a little bit more go-getter, willing to do things and help out. And honestly have a little bit better just kind of base knowledge. But I think for me, it was, I'm happy to associate myself with Marietta College, but I think when you get out in on rotations, you kind of want to make a name for yourself, not necessarily to separate yourself from the college, but I think if you're somebody who you can contribute to somebody's practice and somebody wants to hire you, I think that, you kind of have to get that for yourself. No one's going to hire you because you come in with your white coat that says Marietta College. Although I think my group would.
Barry, I mean, since you and I graduated at the same time, it doesn't feel like that long ago that I was looking for that first job post-college. How about for you?
Well, I got a little bit interested in cardiology during my rotation. My family practice preceptor actually set up the rotation for me. I did it as one of the optional rotations, and it was a good experience to go through. And then back in my day, I don't know what it was like for you, Mike, when you graduated, but there were still jobs being advertised in the newspaper. You remember when there was a newspaper?
Oh yeah.
So I saw a really nice ad for this place and applied. And after a while, the doc I was interviewing with said, "Sounds like you're interviewing me." I said, "Well, I think we're kind of interviewing each other, you know." So, but you know, he was a guy in his young 40s. Now he's a guy in his early 60s. I watched his kids grow up from grade school kids to now they're in medical school. And along the way, we've been fortunate to other Marietta PA graduates have come through. And as I mentioned, we have like 4 of them today. I think all but one of our PAs is from Marietta. And I think we will hire people from other places, but we kind of recognize the quality of the education that they got. And we still take Marietta students for rotations as well. So and then I get to come back to campus every year too. So we try to stay plugged into what's going on back there.
That's awesome. I think something that you said that shouldn't be swept under the rug is about the interviewing process. And when you're interviewing for a job, or if it's your first job or your 50th job, you know, you are interviewing that company too. That's an important thing to remember because you got to find the right fit, right?
Exactly. And actually, one of the comments that you asked a little bit ago about rotations,
Yeah.
one of the guides I give to our students that are going on rotations is like, you're really looking at a bunch of independent variables. You think about, well, medicine. Well, do I want to be an OB or do I want to be an ortho or do I want to be here? But there's a whole lot of other variables that you get, and you don't necessarily get all the ones you want in one rotation. Like, do I like being in an urban environment? Do I like being in a rural environment? Do I like being in the hospital? Do I like being in offices? Do I want a mixture or whatever? Do I like a practice with one physician? Do I like would I like to be in a larger practice? Whatever. And so you'll see all that in the course of your rotations, but they probably won't all be in the one that you were looking for. But maybe you'll be lucky and it'll work out that way. So I think that's important too. As you go around, it's like it's not only what I like to work here, like maybe I'm not as interested in this area of medicine, but I really like this practice. Maybe I can replicate that in an area that's more interesting to me.
You know, that's a question I always like to ask on these calls too, that I think you led into is, you know, what advice would you give to, you know, people who are graduating from the program, you know, now in the rotations, but also I know we have some future students here and maybe some other or younger current students. So if you had any advice for them, and I am sorry for the background noise, it is time for dinner time for someone who is going a little crazy below the desk. So sorry about that. So Barry, I don't know if you could hear me. Sorry, I don't know how loud it was for you all. But any advice that you would have for current students or young alumni from the program?
Well, I think the most important things that I learn and kind of see as the different cohorts come through our place is, you know, meld quickly with your class, find your friends, recognize that it is like drinking from a fire hose or Niagara Falls or whatever. The tests come quickly. Don't dwell on it. You only need to do well enough to be here tomorrow. A lot of times people come in with incredible academic records because they think that's what you have to have, and sometimes it is. It's competitive for getting in, but in the end, what matters is that you learn the material. You'll have good days, you'll have bad days, but try not to let it throw it off your course. After a while, you won't even remember what test you had the week before. Just plug on.
I'll kind of springboard off of that real quick, just as far as for students that are about to be getting jobs and things like that. I think the biggest thing I find with our graduates, and even when they're in the program, is it's overwhelming. They're worried. They want to make the right decision. And I totally get that. The great thing is that you have the lateralization and the mobility within the profession. And I will encourage students a lot of times that, you know, worst case scenario, you don't like it. There are so many other opportunities, which I think is tremendous. And the whole time that's happening is you're networking with other people. And once again, that sometimes opens doors, and you're also gaining experience. I try to also talk to the cohort, and my big thing is I want them to know their worth. There's a lot of times where I've been at other places where people are hesitant to leave because it's comfortable. I totally get it. You like it. You're always afraid that it may not be a good decision. But it's also sometimes when you jump, it's sometimes the best thing you ever did. And so you have to kind of decide, there's personal and professional things that they have to decide on. And a lot of times, many times, like I should have done this, or honestly, you get the best offer when you're about ready to walk out the door. So it's just, revisiting that. These are always difficult conversations to have, but, I always go back to know your worth. You're a valuable entity of the team, and it's important that you always remember that.
Awesome. Great advice. Chris, if I can ask you the same question.
Yeah, I think one thing that and I still think, but certainly on rotations, there's going to be so many times where you won't know the answer and you'll have no clue what's going on, and you'll sort of lose hope for a brief minute. What I would say is to those, for those times, it's going to be okay. In the real world, there's going to be a lot of people there, to help you out, to help you make decisions, and don't be afraid to ask questions. But I think the big thing is, you're going to be in situations where you're uncomfortable, and ultimately, I think that's how you grow.
And Jana, I'm going to ask you the same question. So for students younger than you, students who will be coming in who are on this call, what advice would you give? What do you,
Was it for interviewing or for
the program itself?
Yeah, advice that I feel like I give all the time is ask questions. And coming from me, I ask a million questions, but you don't know what you don't know until you either like say, this is the answer that I think it is. Can you tell me why it's wrong or why it's right? Or like, could you elaborate? Because I feel like sometimes we sort of get a little bit shy of like, oh, we're already supposed to be smart coming in here. Like we've shown ourselves as like these pristine things. But this is the didactic year specifically, I mean, in clinical year 2, this is the time to learn. So ask as many questions as you can even think of. Even sometimes I call my questions stupid, but I think it's important to learn it in this time, because you don't want to go out there and not know it because you didn't ask.
Okay. I'm sorry, I mean, listening to you, Jana, it reminded me when I was a little kid, my mom told me when I went off to school, said, if you have a question, ask it, because chances are somebody else has the same question.
Yeah.
And that's true. And I try, like in teaching, to try to get students to answer questions. And if they send me an email question, I de-identify it and send the answer back to everybody, figuring somebody else has got the question. And it's surprising. Everybody feels that they're the dumb one. Everybody else is grasped the material, and that's just not true.
Yeah, exactly. And then my other one would be take breaks. I know, especially the first couple semesters, it will feel like taking a break is detrimental to your learning. But even if you just set aside like 5 minutes every hour, because I mean, you're going to be studying for hours, just give your mind that little tiny break. There's a bunch of really good ice cream places in Marietta. Go to those ice cream places. And even
you can name them. Name the favorite one. Come on, let's do it.
So my favorite one, you put me on Nieder's Diner. Sorry, Nieder's Diner is amazing. He also really loves the PA program too. I think it's Creamy Creations, which is down by the water, and then there's one more that looks kind of like a tropical island.
Cone shake.
Yes, that one's really that one's really good. And they have a Dairy Queen too. So ice cream is endless. So take a break. And yeah, just enjoy the time there. It goes by really fast.
I was hoping you were going to mention Cone and Shake. Awesome. Chris, what's one thing, before we open it up for questions here, what's one thing that you wish you would have either taken more seriously or the PA program would have given you, or you would have paid attention to more that you didn't? And Barry, I'm coming to you next with that question. It's a hard one.
That's a tough question. Yeah. Might punt that one to Barry and give me a second to think about it.
So what did, could you just rephrase that again?
Barry, was there anything that during the program that you wish you would have paid more attention to, or that they would have focused a little bit more on, or that, caught you off guard when you went out and started working professionally?
I guess the thing that I didn't realize was how dynamic, not technically the field was, but in the business of medicine changed drastically from when I went to school to when I came out. When I started going to school, the vast majority of people were in independent practices and working in either with one physician or in small groups. And very quickly, at least in the field of cardiology, it completely changed. So like in the beginning, all the practices were independent. Now there's like 2 or 3 practices in Columbus that are independent. The rest are all owned by hospitals, and the whole business environment has changed. And I don't know if anybody knew that was coming, but I don't know that I really got the good view. You assume that it's going to be very altruistic and all that. You're in medicine, you're going to help people and all that. But the business side and how the business side was evolving was something that may have been nice to have understood a little bit. But anyway.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think one thing I guess I would say is the professors that are going to be teaching you for 2 years straight, I think utilizing them, getting to know them, and developing relationships with them that will last, well beyond your 2+ years as a student. I think it's awesome to be able to call and text old professors and old classmates for that matter, and just catch up. Even when you're in clinical practice, you can bounce ideas off of them. I frequently talk to Dr. Grissel, and the other day I sent him a screenshot of a knee MRI I was looking at, and I love that he's the type of guy that call or text anytime, and he's happy to talk to you. But I think as a student, making not friends, but having relationships with your program professors, faculty, director is just going to be awesome for you moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So with that, I'd like to open it up for questions, if anyone, or stories, anything anybody has. So a quick by the way, so to talk about that Marietta connection again. So when I was looking up our participants, so I'd have a kind of a conversation or know a little bit about them, I noticed that Jana, you went to Bishop Hartley in Columbus, and one of former communications committee chair Anna Bach Mullins is a Spanish teacher there. I don't know if you had her, but I thought that was a neat little connection there too. So Marietta people are everywhere.
Yeah, that name actually sounds really familiar. I might have had her for one of my Spanish classes because there's 2 professors.
There you go. Awesome. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh,
Jim, I'm going to ask Jim, you're on mute.
Okay, now I got it. Hey,
there you go.
Chris or Jana, quick question. What from your peers that are out there or bearing the same thing, what kind of stick rate is going on with how many people stay once they graduate, they get out into the community? How many of you stick around, and stay for a while? Now, Barry's indicated he's going to be in the job forever, but what's the rest of the community? And a second question or a second part to that is, how many people might go on to a different career in the medical field, like becoming MDs or going on to different schools? What does maybe the question is, what does the future look like for the folks that are graduating from Marietta going into the PA program into the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it couldn't look better, to be honest. I think most of 95% of the PAs that I talk to are satisfied with their profession. I think the work-life balance and the salary is excellent. I think a lot of PAs are in positions where if you want to work more and make more, then you're able to. But I think as a new, as somebody who's interested in the PA profession, I think it's an awesome time to get in. I think the profession is satisfying enough and you have enough autonomy. There's certain things, certain specialties you can get into where you have a lot of hands-on, things on a day-to-day basis that most people aren't interested in, going to medical school or doing other things. I think networking within the hospital and seeing what other jobs are out there that aren't PA professions, I do it all the time just because I'm interested in, and I like to talk, but I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon.
I'll just kind of springboard off of that for Chris, just to kind of get a little bit more information, at least from our graduates, Jim. So we've had 601 students so far graduate, and I would say only 12 are not currently NCCPA certified as a physician assistant. So I think that just speaks to what Chris says as far as, the love of the profession staying there and how many truly decide to go forward into a different career or not be a PA. So I think only 12, it's very small.
I've only run across 2 that went on that became physicians. One was in cohort 1, Mark, who's I think also on the MCAA board there.
He was going to moderate tonight, but unfortunately he ended up in emergency surgery. So
yeah,
you got me.
I'm not surprised. Yes, he went into orthopedics.
That's what PAs don't have to do.
That's right. There you go. And then we had a fella at Ohio Dominican that at the end of his first year was accepted to med school and went, and he's now a trauma resident at Grant. So and just sings the praises of PAs to this day. Said that what he learned in the 1 year helped him skate through a lot of medical school. I think I see more people changing employers and maybe even specialties than I do leaving the career. We've had people that went across the country and worked somewhere else and then came back to Columbus, or changed from one discipline to another. We've had people that went from cardiology to pulmonology to room to various sorts of things. So I think it gives them that flexibility, but at least empirically, I think, Christy, your numbers really hold up. I think it's people changing jobs because they'd be happier somewhere else, or changing disciplines rather than changing careers.
I was going to say 2 that I met, not anytime soon, but they said down the line, like if they were thinking like when they wanted to slow down with medicine, they'd be interested in teaching. And then Stephanie Stradley, who's an alumni of the program who I worked with prior to coming in, she's just sort of moved her way up the ladder. She's a manager of sports medicine at OSU, and she's like an advocate for PAs within that APP wheelhouse. So no one that I know of is like leaving, they're just sort of growing in their positions.
Thanks, guys.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thanks for the question, Jim. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Oh, well, sorry. Oh, go right ahead. Sorry, Madison. Go for it.
You're fine. Hi, I'm a senior at Ashland. I'm coming to the program next June, actually. And I have a question for Jonna. Where's your favorite coffee shop?
Ooh, that's tough. Because there's 2. So go to both. One is Jeremiah's, and then I can't. What's the other one that has the drink? Yes, go to both and try them, and then you be the judge. But they have a Starbucks too. But honestly, those 2 are like the most popular in Marietta. So go to those 2.
Okay, thank you. And then I actually had another question for you also. You said you were going to Tampa. Why did you why do you want to go there?
Yeah, so I've really battled with what I want to do when I get out, how I wanted to challenge myself clinically. And personally for me, heme onc was my, not bad, but my lower areas of like where I don't feel the most comfortable. So I kind of wanted to challenge myself. I wrote my clinical coordinator, and it just so happened to be in Tampa, but I'm trying to challenge myself school wise and get better knowledge for my pants. And it's really cool. A little added bonus that it's in Tampa.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for answering that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, seeing as that we are 3 minutes before 7, I want to thank our participants again. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your time and your talent with the Marietta College Alumni Association. We always appreciate, and the college always appreciates the gifts of time and talent as well. So thank you again. Thank you on behalf of the whole MCAAC and the Communications Committee for participating. And thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Doug put all of the links in the chat. So please, please, please scroll up and give the MCAC a follow. Oh, and Maureen put in the chat about if you wanted to reach out and have a conversation. Maureen, there she is. Maureen Morgan, class of 93, is our MCAAC chair. So Maureen, do you want to say anything? I'm putting you on the spot to be the closeout if you want it.
No, just that this was such a fantastic program and probably one of our best attended in quite some time. So thanks to everyone who took the time out to present and have us learn a little bit more, and then for the council members who helped put this together. And we are always looking for folks to join us in presenting quality productions like these. So reach out to any one of us if you are interested in knowing more about how you can help serve Marietta.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining, and be on the lookout for the next edition of Connect 4, which we should be announcing pretty soon. Thanks everyone. Have a great night.